Book of Heaven, Volume 18, Part 8. February 11th, 1926. The human will is the woodworm that gnaws at all goods, and the key that opens all evils. Each act of human will, not connected with that of God, forms an abyss of distance between creator and creature. I was thinking to myself, why so much fear in me, to the point of feeling my life missing in me? That may this never be. I might not do the most holy will of God entirely and completely. The mere thought of this destroys me. What would it be, then, if I came to the point of withdrawing, even for one single instant, from the supreme and adorable will of my Creator? Now, while I was thinking of this, my lovable Jesus came out from within my interior, and taking my hands in his, he kissed them with unspeakable love. Then he pressed them so very tightly to his breast, and all tenderness told me, "My daughter, how beautiful is my will operating in your hands. Your motions are wounds for me, but divine wounds, because they come from the depth of my will, dominating, operating, and triumphant in you. So I feel wounded as though by another me. With just reason do you fear? If you went out of my supreme will, even for one instant, oh, how low you would descend. You would reduce yourself, as though from the state of Adam innocent to the state of Adam guilty. And since Adam had been created as the head of all generations, his will, withdrawn from his Creator, formed the woodworm in the root of the tree of all generations. Therefore all feel the ruins that the woodworm of the human will formed from the very beginning of the creation of man. Each act of human will not connected with that of God forms an abyss of distance between Creator and creature, and therefore distance of sanctity, of beauty, of nobility, of light, of science, and so forth. So by withdrawing from the divine will, Adam did nothing but put himself at a distance from his Creator. This distance debilitated him, impoverished him, unbalanced him completely, and caused imbalance in all generations. Because when evil is in the root, the whole tree is forced to feel the malignant effects, the bad humors that are in the root. Therefore, my daughter, since I have called you as the first and as the head of the mission of my will, this will of mine must lay in you the balance between you and the Creator, and therefore remove the distance that exists between the human will and the divine, so as to be able to form in you the root of the tree without bad humors, making only the vital humor of my will flow, so that the tree may not be jeopardized in its vegetation, in the development, and in the preciousness of its fruits. Now, if you wanted to do an act of your will not connected with mine, you would come to form the woodworm to the mission that I have entrusted to you, and like a second Adam, you would ruin the root of the tree of my will that I want to form in you, and would jeopardize all those who shall want to graft themselves to this tree, because they would not find all the fullness of my will in the one in whom it had its beginning. Therefore it is I who cast this fear into your soul, so that my will may always be dominant in you, and all the manifestations that I have made to you may always be in vegetation, in order to form the divine root, trunk, branches, flowers, and fruits, without the shadow of your human will. In this way, you would return to your origin, into the womb of your Creator, all beautiful, grown and formed with the fullness of the Supreme Will. And the divinity, satisfied in you of the work of the creation of man, would make its chosen people of the Fiat Voluntas Tua on earth as it is in heaven come out from you and from the mission entrusted to you. Therefore be attentive, my daughter, and do not want to ruin the work of my will in you. I love it so much, and it costs me so much, that I shall use all my infinite jealousies. I myself shall guard my will, so that yours may never have life. I remained surprised, and I comprehended with such clarity what an act of human will means, compared to an act of divine will, and how the soul, by doing her own will, loses the physiognomy of her Creator, and stripping herself of the beauty with which she was created, she clothes herself with miserable rags. She barely drags herself in good. She acquires the diabolical likeness. She feeds herself with dirty foods. My Jesus, give us all the grace never to do our own will. That is like calling all passions back to life. So, almost trembling, I tried to plunge more deeply into the Supreme Will, and I called my celestial Mamma to my help, so that together, in the name of all, we might adore the Supreme Will on behalf of all the human wills opposed to it. Now, while I was doing this, the heavens opened, and my Jesus came out from within my interior, all in feast, and told me, "Daughter of my volition, you must know that when my will reigns in the soul, it integrates everything she does, and the development of the life of my eternal will in her. So it was not you who called my divine Mamma, but it was my will that called her. And she, feeling called by a divine will that has always been whole and triumphant within her, immediately perceived that one from the celestial family was calling her upon earth. And she said to all heaven, 'Let us go, let us go. It is one from our family that is calling us to fulfill the duties of the family to which we belong.' And here they are. Look at them, all around us. The Virgin, the saints, the angels, to do the act of adoration that you want to do, and the divinity to receive it. My will has such power as to enclose everything and make everyone do the same thing, as if it were one single act. Hence the great difference that passes between the one who lets my will reign within herself and one who lives of her own self. In the first one, there is a divine will that prays, that operates, that thinks, that looks, that suffers. At each motion of hers, it moves heaven and earth and connects everything together in such a way that all feel the power of the divine will operating in the creature and recognize in her the nobility, the likeness, the offspring of their Creator. And as daughter of the celestial family, all protect her, assist her, defend her, and long to have her together with them in the celestial fatherland. All the opposite for one who lives of her own will. That is the key of hell, of miseries, of inconstancy. Whatever place it opens, it can open only there where evil is. And if she does any good at all, it is apparent, because inside of it, there is the woodworm of her will that gnaws at everything. Therefore, even if it should cost you your life, never, never go out of my will. February 18th, 1926. Each manifestation on the divine will is a beatitude that is released by God. Each act of the human will rejects this beatitude. I felt oppressed because of many thoughts that went through my mind, with the addition of the privation of my sweet Jesus. And while I struggled between the hope that he would not leave me without him for too long, and the fear of no longer seeing him, my lovable Jesus took me by surprise and filled me all with himself, in such a way that I could no longer see myself, but only Jesus, who formed around himself an immense sea of many little flames. And these were all the truths that regarded his divinity and his lovable will. I would have wanted to take all those little flames in order to know he who is everything for me, and to make him known to all. But no, now I could not find the human terms in order to express them. Now, the littleness of my mind to contain them. Now, the infinity that it was not given to me to embrace. Now, the immensity in which I remained lost. I could comprehend a little bit of everything, but alas, the celestial language is very different from the terrestrial language. Therefore, I could not find the right words to make myself understood. More so, since when I am with Jesus, I have the same language as Jesus. We understand each other perfectly. But once Jesus has withdrawn, and I find myself inside myself, I feel such a change that I am just barely able to say a few things, and maybe half mangled, and while babbling like a little child. Then, while I was swimming inside that sea of little flames, my beloved Jesus told me, "It is right that the little newborn of my supreme volition take part in the beatitudes, joys, and happinesses of she who delivered her to the light." She, in the footnote, meaning the divine will. All these little flames that you see in the endless sea of my will are the symbol of the secret beatitudes, joys, and happinesses that it contains. I say secret, because since I have not yet manifested the fullness of the knowledge that the eternal will contains, nor are there the right dispositions in creatures in order to manifest them, all these beatitudes remain ad intra, inside the divinity, as we are waiting to put them out for the one who would be born, live, and carry out her life in our will, with no interruption, because her will being one with ours, all the divine doors are opened, and our most intimate secrets revealed. The joys and the beatitudes are placed in common, as much as it is possible for a creature, and as much as she is capable of. So you see, my daughter, each manifestation that I make to you about my will is a beatitude released from the womb of the divinity, that not only makes you happy, and disposes you more to live in my will, but prepares you for more new knowledges. And not only this, but all of heaven remains inundated by that new beatitude that has come out of our womb. Oh, how grateful they are to you, and how they pray that I continue the manifestations on my will. These beatitudes were closed into ourselves by the human will, and each act of human will is a lock to these celestial beatitudes, not only in time, but also in eternity, because each act of my will done on earth sows in the soul the seed of that beatitude that she shall enjoy in heaven. Without the seed, it is useless to hope for the plant. Therefore, deeper and deeper do I want you inside my will. February 21st, 1926. Each manifestation on the divine will is a birth from it. Each act done in it is water that is formed in order to expand the sea of the eternal will around the soul. I was feeling all immersed in the holy divine volition. A celestial and divine air surrounded me, and an inaccessible light made present to me, as though in act, all the acts of the supreme will, that finding the same will in me, gave me their kiss and their love, and I gave them my kiss in return, and I impressed my I love you in each act of the eternal volition. It seemed to me that all of them wanted to be recognized by me, in order to have my requital, perfect accord, and mutual possession. Now, while I was in this state, my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, and with his divine hands he bound me within that light, in such a way that I could see nothing else but Jesus, his will, and everything that it was doing. How happy I felt! How many inexpressible joys I experienced! Jesus himself was all in feast, and felt such contentment in seeing me all for his will and in his will, that it seemed he would forget about everything, to occupy himself only with his will, so that it might be complete in me, and triumphing in everything, it might obtain the purpose for which all things were created. Then afterwards he said to me, "My daughter, little newborn of my will, you must know that the one who is born in my will can also be a mother, by giving birth to many children for my supreme volition. In order to be mother, it is necessary to have sufficient matter in one's own interior, so as to be able to form, with one's own blood, with one's own flesh, and with continuous nourishment, the birth that one wants to give to the light. If there is no seed and not enough matter, it is useless to hope to become a mother. Now, since you have been born in my will, in you there is the seed of fecundity, and there is also the fully sufficient matter of all the manifestations I have made to you on my will. It can be said that each knowledge I have given you can give birth to a child for my will. Your continuous acts in my will are abundant nourishment in order to first form these children of heaven within yourself, and then deliver them as triumph, honor, glory, and crown of my will, and as perennial joy of the mother who delivered them. See then what each additional manifestation means. It is one more birth that my will delivers. It is a divine life that goes out for the good of creatures. It is to debilitate the strengths of the human will, in order to establish in it the fortress of the divine will. How attentive then you must be, not to disperse anything, even from the smallest manifestations I make to you, because you would deprive me of the honor of having one more child, who can narrate to all one more good about my will, in order to give it to creatures, that they might love it more, and let themselves be subdued by the power of my supreme volition. Then, I don't know how, I felt the usual fear that I might, even just slightly, go out of the most holy will. And my always lovable Jesus came back again, and all love told me, "My daughter, why do you fear? Listen. When you worry and afflict yourself for fear that you might go out of my will, I laugh to myself, and I make it a joke for you, because I know that the water of the sea of my will that surrounds you is so much that you would not be able to find its boundaries in order to get out. Wherever you wanted to turn your step, to the right, to the left, to the front, or to the back, you would be walking, yes, but always inside the water of the sea of my will. And you yourself have formed this water with the many acts you have done in it. In fact, since my will is endless, by doing your acts in it, you have formed a sea around yourself from which you cannot go out. So each act you do comes to form new water to expand even more the sea of the supreme will inside and outside of you. Your very fears that you might go out of the origin in which you were born are waves that you form, that in agitating you, plunge you more deeply into the abyss of the sea of my will. This is why I do not reproach you, because I know where you are and how you are. Rather, I call your attention to live in peace in my will. Or I give you a surprise by telling you more surprising things on the eternal volition, in such a way that, surprised, you forget about everything, including your fears, and with peace you navigate the sea of my will. And I, divine helmsman, delight in guiding the one who lives in our supreme will and is all for it. May everything be for the glory of God and to my confusion, as I am the most miserable of all creatures. Deo gratias. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 18. Fiat.